Hello and welcome to PJNet TV, and this video segment I call My Perspective and Comments. And today I'd like to start and discuss a bit about an old Queen song, Another One Bites the Dust. And you might ask, what am I talking about? Well, the Democratic presidential race, and Kamala Harris hung it up and suspended her campaign. We saw some inklings of the inevitability of that happening with letting people go in her New Hampshire office and just the weak polling numbers. But I'd like to highlight a little bit of what Spartacus, Cory Booker, had to say the next day after she announced that she was Kamala Harris was getting out of the race. And Cory, the Spartacus, speaks up and says, it's a shame, and these Democratic voters that was polling very low for Kamala Harris. Old Spartacus was really kind of being very discouraging towards his own voters, his own Democratic voters, and kind of alluding that there might be some racism in there. So Spartacus throwing down the race card. But I wish somebody would tap Booker on the shoulder and say, what are you talking about? These are Democrat voters. These aren't Republicans you're talking about. Racist, homophobic, and alike. You're talking about the people that are going to be voting for you. And it's just idiotic. But once again, that's the Democrats' identity politics. Everybody pitting everybody against one another and separating everyone into groups. And that's where the Democrats are right now. I'd also like to talk a bit about the race and those that are still in there that might be on top of the Democratic race that's going on there. And old Joe, Uncle Joe, in the national polls is still hanging in at the top, making some strides in the Iowa and New Hampshire, but it just astounds me that he's still strong. So there's something about Joe Biden, and I think it has to do with Barack Obama. He was in the administration, he was the vice president, and the black vote is still in Uncle Joe's corner. But I'd like to talk about some declines. Two, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren. I think are starting to see some weaknesses there, that people have heard enough about the socialized medicine and going after the rich and demonizing business, demonizing the successful. And I'd like to talk a bit about Elizabeth Warren, because she, she's been on this thing about attacking the wealthy, the billionaires. In fact, she made a point of talking about the billionaires that were on the stage with her in the debates here. But one of the things that really, I think, showed some of the voters, Iowa and New Hampshire, and even in the national poll, is once she started explaining her socialized medicine and who was going to pay for it, and the plan that she was unveiling, the Democrats are saying, wait a minute here, this isn't what we want. And it's kind of ironic, or it makes sense. Mayor Pete is on the rise. Elizabeth Warren is taking a dip. And I believe what we're seeing here is that, what did Mayor Pete say? He spoke to Warren and even Bernie's this plan for socialized medicine, that everyone was going to be put on this plan. And I want to stay on Mayor Pete, but Amy Klobuchar is also in that camp of along with Mayor Pete. That, and getting back to Mayor Pete, what he said to brush against Warren and Bernie was because their plans are they're going to force everyone onto this socialized medicine. And Mayor Pete has said, no. I mean, why would people want to drop a plan that they're comfortable with, they're happy with, to be forced into your plan, Elizabeth? And that rings true, and that's why I think that Mayor Pete is on the rise, because there's a contrast there, and the voters in these primaries are looking at that and saying, now wait a minute, and it really comes down to the American culture, where Democrats and Republicans kind of can come on the same page there and say, hey, wait a minute, you know, they talk about differences, but when it comes to Americans don't want to be told, hey, this is what we're offering you, and you're going to take it, and that's it. Take it or leave it, because there's nothing else. Americans, the American culture is, we want choice. We want to be able to weigh things and make a choice, not to be stuck and have a plan pushed down that here, you're going to take this and that's all that's available to you. And that's where I think Pete and some of the moderates right now, Amy Klobuchar was very strong in that also. And keep an eye on Amy Klobuchar. There may be a rise in her status right now too in the polling. But that's why I think you're seeing Elizabeth taking a dip, Mayor Buttigieg rising, because he's taking votes. And when people finally weigh between what Elizabeth is trying to sell and what the alternative, listening to Mayor Pete, he has a better argument. So I think that in the last couple 3 weeks, he's been doing well, because he's not the extreme. He's not a socialist, and he brings to bear choice. Americans want choice. They don't want to be forced into something. So interesting race, and well, I think we're going to see some more people. The herd is going to be cut a little bit more here coming up over the next couple of weeks. I think Spartacus, his days are numbered. I think that he'll be dropping out, be one of the first ones in the next couple of weeks. That I think he'll be dropping out. I'd like to talk about the other big news items that's been taking place over these last months, and it's the Schiff trial. The kangaroo court, I think, is more accurate. And once again, they're done with these witnesses. The last couple days here this week, they had the so-called constitutional professors / lawyers come up and basically demonize Trump and saying, yep, he broke the law. It's definitely impeachable. Jonathan Turley was the only one that really came out, and he's no fan of Trump, but at least he said there's nothing here. And it really, I think the American people, even Democrats, are going to say, wait a minute, this was a kangaroo court. Adam Schiff picked the Republicans had no say in who was going to be brought to testify. It was totally Adam Schiff, done in secret. And these are who are going to be the people that are going to come before are to be interviewed, and that's it. You've got no input in that. And people know when something is done unfairly. And even Democrats are looking at this process and saying, wait a minute, this isn't America doing it this way. And I'll tell you, I think there's going to be, Adam Schiff is going to have a reckoning. And I think that when all's said and done, his strength, they may be pulling him off the chairmanship. But I believe that the way that this has been done, kangaroo court, really unfair, and hearsay after hearsay, and no real sound evidence that's impeachable, I think that will be the inevitable conclusion. And when it goes to the Senate, I think that's what's going to come forth. Now the question is whether or not Mitch McConnell is actually going to have a full-blown trial, and we're going to get all of the people that have something to testify regarding Ukraine, the phone call, and Hunter and Joe Biden, and how they came to play in all this Ukrainian activity, and what has been going on in Ukraine. So it's going to play out. I think the Democrats are trying to push this through as quick as possible, and that the people are saying right now that it may be the impeachment will be written up and move forward before the end of the year. So we'll wait and see, but it's going to go nowhere. I think the Republicans have finally gotten some backbone, and they're not going to stand for this, kangaroo court and the unfairness of how this all took place. Donald Trump he's our president, has a lot of weight, arrows coming at him from every which way. But this week we had some good news, and some good news that President Trump can hang his hat on, and it was the economic news for November. And folks, some record-setting numbers. Unemployment for blacks, lowest, even lower than the beginning of the year. Strong, more jobs for everyone, and the black people are able to get a job, and the unemployment rates in the African American community is record low. Also, the job expansion, and one thing you won't be hearing it touted from the MSNBCs, the CNNs, is giving President Trump the credit. Now, they'll be talking about inflation and the economy slowing down. But right now, this November economic number and the job growth in general, massive numbers right there, positive numbers for our economy, and it's a Trump economic success, and just waiting right now for the beginning of next year. It's something that he can build on, and they're already talking about some potential positive possibilities with his negotiation and the negotiations that are taking place with China. And if there can be a deal struck, I think that these economic numbers are going to go even higher. So some very good prospects in the coming new year, and we just need to keep our eyes open. I like to listen and to keep my ears open when it comes to these debates from the Democratic stage, because you can hear where they want to take this country, and it's not in a positive direction. And when you talk about the far left that seems to be driving many of the issues in this country, we've got it puts President Trump in a very strong position, because even the middle of the road Democrats, the moderates, they're not going to go for crazy. And I've said this before, they're not going to go down that road. And if the economy stays strong and there's some more successes, that record-breaking successes that continue, I believe that President Trump has a good, strong position when it comes to the election in 2020. And that's my perspective and comment.